Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, from wherever you are joining me from on this presentation today. Today, I'm going to be sharing on a very important subject that is titled Spirituality Transforming um, the DNAs of organizations or the DNA of organizations. And so allow me to share my screen with you. I'm just going to run you through this very short presentation, hopefully. And then I hope that you are able to start some kind of conversation around these thoughts and this discussion. And I would appreciate that if you have comments below, you can leave comments for me uh, in the comment section wherever you find the opportunity, on whatever platform you will be watching this from, please share your thoughts with me. So just a moment, I'll start to share my slide in just a bit. All right, just a moment. Okay. Okay, amazing. Here is my slide. I do hope that you can see my slide. All right. So spirituality transforming organizational DNA. So I want to just share with you my thoughts on this topic, how organizations, as it were, can uh, change or transform their DNA to guarantee that they have a culture that is positive, that is, enhancing to all their stakeholders, employees, shareholders, community, every, stakeholder within the value chain. So organizations can experience transformation by unleashing their spirituality to change the direction or the fortune of their organization. Okay, so now, okay, just a brief intro of the presenter. My name is Aderele Onikosi. I have the responsibility to lead Conigelix Consulting International Limited. It is an organizational and learning and development consultancy in West Africa, Nigeria to be precise. Okay, just a brief, introduction about the speaker. So without um, taking much of your time, I want to also share with you uh, two offers that I have. The first is my books. My books, you can get a hold of some of my books using the link that is attached to this slide. You see the link, and then you can check out my books and order them. They are affordable. And then this is the offer that I'm most excited about. I'm very excited about this offer because this is an upcoming event. It is the 7 days online uh, mental resilience mastery boot camp, and it's so affordable because I really wanted a lot of people to be able to join in this boot camp. I've made it ridiculously affordable, with also the um, help and support of our partner, company. We've been able to bring this down to you, in an affordable format. I think this is about $20 or so, or less than. $20 from wherever you are. You can join on this particular boot camp. It's going to be a 7 days boot camp, and you can actually subscribe to the boot camp by using B2 / resilience bootcamp. It promises to be very exciting. We will be, sharing the techniques, to be able to develop and build your resilience, particularly in challenging times like we're in this pandemic. So it's a very interesting course, boot camp, 7 days, and it's awesome. I look forward to being to receiving you in the boot camp for these 7 days. Okay, now quickly, I'm going to be sharing on the framework for spirituality, of organizational DNA. And this is the framework. Here, what we have is we have the 4 dimensions. And here I talk a lot about, these days about the 4 core dimensions of an individual and also an organization. So, because if he works for an individual, who is an entity, he also works for a corporate entity, which is also an organization. So, in this framework, we have been able to highlight 4 different dimensions. We talked about the spiritual dimension. The next we have the social dimension, then we also have the mental dimension and the physical dimension. So for an individual, this is the 4 core dimension of every person, whoever you are. And these same, core dimensions apply also to organizations. And at the heart of this dimension is the spiritual dimension, which I will be looking at really in exploring how organizations can use that spiritual dimension, or what I also call their spirituality, to be able to give birth to a culture that promotes wholeness within the organization for every stakeholder that is important to the continuous existence of the business. So quickly, let me just share with you few concepts about these for an individual. So that the spiritual dimension, and then see, a lot of time I've had to be doing the work of explaining and trying to clarify the difference between spirituality and religion, because a lot of time people, when you share stuff about spiritual or spirituality with them, they're quick to mix it up with religion. So I'm not talking about religion. It doesn't matter what religion you have. It's a personal thing, and it's not open or subject to debate by anyone, or anyone trying to impose their own thinking in terms of religious beliefs on you. So that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about in this broadcast is the spiritual dimension. And so spirituality we talk about here is talking about those things that make up the individual, those things that make up the individuals in your mind, right? Your purpose, your motivation, the values that you subscribe to. Those are the things that make up your spiritual being, your core. And those are the real, the essence of your being as a person, right? That's what defines who you are, your essence, your core, your purpose, your values, your motivations, the things that make the deepest meanings to you in life. That's where they reside. They reside in the spiritual core of your being. And they, from that point, begin to affect or influence every other dimension. So they influence the social dimension, it influences the mental dimension, it influences the physical dimension. So the spiritual dimension is actually the core of the person, the individual. Okay, so now going to the social dimension, which is also known as the emotional dimension, you realize that your social dimension, your ability to build relationships, healthy relationships, to have control over your emotions, to be able to manage yourself properly, to become aware of who you are, to regulate yourself and become socially aware in terms of knowing how to relate with others with empathy and showing concern and all of that. Now you find out that the social dimension actually finds expression through your spiritual core, the spiritual dimension. Now, because your values, your essence, the things that give you meaning, all of those things now influence the kind of relationship you will build. They affect the kind of how you relate with people, how well you're able to be in sync with yourself, in relationship with yourself, the ability to love yourself based on your understanding of your inner being. Then you can translate that into being socially aware and living with others with great empathy and understanding. And if you're a leader, you can lead that way with empathy and showing concern for the people that you're leading. And so you're not just a boss, but indeed you're a leader. You're not just a manager, but indeed that you're a leader. That means you can inspire, the people that you lead. The people that you lead can look up to you as a role model, as a mentor. And then the people that you lead also can be happy, following you, not because they are coerced into following you, but because you have earned their trust, because of your understanding of who they are in dealing with them. And all of this stem from your understanding of the spiritual dimension of your being. And then we move on to the mental dimension, right? Now, so the mental dimension in this case is talking about your cognitive ability, your ability to, to engage or deploy critical thinking, your ability to solve problems. That's where, you have that. That's where we have the aptitude, right? Okay, so that is in the mental dimension. And it also, traces set back into, who you are, the essence, that you are, so that your meaning, your purpose can influence the way you relate, the way you use your mental intelligence, who you are, your understanding of purpose, of your essence, of those things that make, deep meanings to you, of your motivation. They are the guide that will help you deploy your mental intelligence in such a way that promotes harmony in the society, in such a way that helps the environment to become better, that makes contribution to the lives of people and everyone around you. And then the last and not the least is the physical dimension. Now, the physical dimension here is talking about your ability to be physically intelligent, to know when to put a break when you're engaged in an enterprise, to know when your body is sending a signal to you that you need to take a break, you need to rest, and you need to know what to eat that will help, your body to remain in a good shape. And because when you're physically okay, when your physical well-being is intact, it affects or influences or rather impact on your mental dimension and social dimension. Okay, so these are in short, the framework for the spirituality of an individual to help you unleash your essence, right, in the place of work, in the place of doing business, in relationships in your life, and in every area of your life. Okay, so at this point, I now want to talk to us about this deep meanings, which is its spiritual dimension, which is really, really at the core of this presentation. Okay, so the spiritual dimensions, like I said, is talking about the deepest meaning, your values. So that means, as an organization, what are the things that really matter to an organization? This is something that we need to know. What is the deepest meaning, and what are the values, that an organization is built around? What is the purpose, or what are the purposes that drive an organization? What are the highest motivations that makes an organization to keep being in business? So we have some organizations, as it were, right now that are over 100 years old. They've been in business for as long as 100 years and more. And so we find out that their deepest meaning, their values, their purposes, and their highest motivations are largely, contributory factors to the longevity of the existence of this business, or these businesses. Okay, so in to look at it in such a way as to bring this closer home for you right now, we have this framework. Now you look at this framework. At the heart of this framework is the organizational spiritual DNA, which is the spirituality that we've been talking about, or the spiritual dimension. And I say that when an organization understands what their deepest meaning, are, their purposes, their values, and their highest motivation. Don't forget these things. They are four critical elements of the spiritual DNA of an organization: highest meaning, values, right? Purposes, and then the fourth one is their motivations. What are the highest motivations? And so all of these four elements, they are at the core of this image that you can see right now in front of you. All right, so they are the core. And my proposition is that this all influence this other component of an organization that you can see. So they kind of form a ring around the organizational spiritual DNA. And we've said that the organizational spiritual DNA has those four elements of deepest meaning, of purposes, of value, and highest motivations. So at the core of this, we now have this ring. So my proposition is that the deepest meaning, purposes, values, and highest motivation of an organization will drive the strategy of the organization. So if you have unhealthy meaning or purposes why an organization is in business, or you have organizations whose core value is or values are at variance to a healthy environment, to best practices in business, and all of that, it will influence their strategy. It will also influence the organizational culture. It will influence their people policies. It will influence the way they get into their engagement with stakeholders. It will influence the initiatives for change, whichever one that they try to make. All right, so now we've been talking about strategy. These four elements of the spiritual DNA will determine a company's strategy, an organizational strategy, how they want to, take the market. It will influence their market, strategy. It will, determine whether they are an organization that puts profit ahead of people. It will determine whether they are more particular about their profit more than the customers that they seek to serve. So these are the things that affect the well-being of an organization, right? And then the next is the culture of an organization. Those core elements of the DNA of an organization influences their culture. So you find out that if it's a culture that is intolerable to dissenting opinion by employees, you will find that such employees will always be shown the door. So in such organizations, the employees are not allowed to have a voice. So that when you have a voice that is not in sync with the voice of the organization, you will be shown the way out. So you find out the culture. Is it an inclusive culture? Is the culture a culture that have respect for diversity? Is it the culture that is seeking to cover the gap, in wages between the male and the female gender? And then all of this, what is the culture that the organization pushes forward? Now, irrespective of the cosmetic approach that any organization wants to make to improve their culture in terms of making quick decisions so that they can look good in the media, it will not change who they are, because who the organization are, or who the organization is fundamentally a function of their spiritual DNA. So if they're going to really experience true change, they might have to alter the configuration of the organizational spiritual DNA before they can achieve anything. So such organizational spiritual DNA also kind of influences their people policy, how they see people, how people are promoted, how people are rewarded or compensated, how people are elevated, how people are seen generally. Are people seen just as one of the commodities or assets or intangibles that the organization have, or people are really seen as people who are making contribution towards the growth of the organization? Okay, so this spiritual DNA also influences the approach that the organization uses in engaging its stakeholders like employees. We've talked about stakeholders like shareholders, stakeholders like government regulatory authorities, stakeholders like the community or the environment where the business is domiciled, where they operate. So this spiritual DNA will influence their approach to stakeholder engagement, whether it is an approach that have respect for stakeholders, that shows empathy to the stakeholders and put the stakeholders into consideration as it takes, its decisions or go about its business. Okay, so this is very critical to the survival of any organization, because you find that some organizations whose spiritual DNA coding are not supportive of a healthy, positive environment where they do business, a healthy policy where their employees can thrive, a healthy customer relations or customer service policy. If they are devoid of all of this, it's only a matter of time. You will find out that that organization is going to extinct. It will die naturally. Like somebody said, that organizations don't die from murder. Most organizations die from suicide. So they die from inside. Okay. And the last here, and not the least, is the change initiatives, right? So organizational spiritual DNA also determines how the organization approaches, change initiatives. For instance, maybe a change initiative is coming in the form of a merger or acquisition or a joint venture business. Now, their spiritual DNA will determine the direction the change initiative will go. Will it be a change initiative that will benefit just the few top executives who will personally, benefit from whatever change initiative that is being deployed? Or will it be an initiative that will be for the good of every stakeholder within the value chain? Now, what determines this is the organizational spiritual DNA, and by extension also the spiritual DNA of the top leaders of the organization. And that is why you find out that it's mostly challenging when you have individuals with a different DNA coding spiritually, and then also different from the organization where they work. Their spiritual DNA coding is at variance with the organization where they work. Usually what you're going to experience there is a de-alignment. Something is going to go out of order in such a place. So on this note, I want to just wrap it up here. If you're really interested, to know more about this, leave me a comment in the comment box. Send me a message in my inbox you will find my detail, particularly my LinkedIn contact at the end of this presentation. I want to finally, before I leave, remind you of the upcoming event, the 7 days online bootcamp mental resilience mastery program. It's very affordable, about $20 or so, and you will be able to spend the next 7 days with me in a very, I would say, in an immersive program that is designed to bring about transformation to everyone who signs up for it. So please sign up for it, and I'll be glad to see you in the boot camp. And so my books, also a reminder, you can use the link there to find them. And if you're in Nigeria, West Africa, you can find my books on Okada Books by just putting my name in the search box. You will find the books there. Okay, so on this note, I want to say thank you very much for spending these few minutes with me, sharing my thoughts for you or to you on the on spirituality, the transformation of an organizational DNA. Thank you so much. I appreciate that you're able to join me in this short presentation. Okay, so in this at this point, I would want to close the presentation. Thank you very much. My name is Adenrele Onikosi. If by chance you find this on YouTube, please subscribe. Click the subscribe button. Follow me. There are a lot of content there that you can find useful for you. Thank you very much, and do enjoy the rest of your day.